Hey everybody, I'm Mike Jones. I'm a retired Texas police officer.
G'day everybody, I'm Pete Gillette and I'm a retired New South Wales policeman.
How you doing, Peter?
Very good, thanks mate. It's exciting to see you again, and when I walked out of my farmhouse this morning, I looked across the paddocks and I'm thinking, well, I think Mike's about over that direction. And it's a bit of a guess, but I'm pretty sure I probably would have hit the United States anyway.
Yeah, just
Maybe
just
Mexico,
throw
I
it.
don't know. I just looked to
Hey,
the
it's all the
northeast.
same.
That's right. So I thought, Mike, last week you were talking about part of what you said was about being the constabulary, or that your system of policing was based on the constabulary. And that was very interesting to me because, of course, that's the English style, and that's what Australia adopts to this day. And so I had something to show you, and
All right.
so it's this. This is just a leather lead, but do you recognise what that is? Apart from being a whistle, do you recognise that?
No, I don't.
Bear in mind constabulary, English Bobby, English policeman.
Hmm. No,
Maybe I'll just blow it and see if this tells you. Nothing. That's the
no,
English.
I didn't hear it. I
Every
didn't
English
hear you.
policeman used to carry one of those when they were walking
But
around London in the thick fog and the dark, and when they before they had radios and they needed urgent assistance, they would go, and other
well,
police would hear it.
see, I can't hear it.
But you can't
It's
hear it.
not. Yeah, it's not picking up on the microphone. No,
Still can't hear it.
no.
I don't know what that is.
Wade may have a what they call a noise gate on his
Ah,
microphone. I
righto.
mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's just silent.
Yeah. It's one of those cordless ones, and the battery must have went flat.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I'll
And
be darned, man. So, did you guys carry those on your
no,
uniform
no,
too?
no.
Oh, okay.
One of
All
my
right.
very good friends, and if you're watching, a bloke named Colin Dunn, gave that to me years and years ago. And it's actually, I haven't got my glasses on, but it has a date on it, 1940, something like that.
I'll be
But that's what all
damned.
the English police, they used to carry one of those, and um, just to let them know they need someone to help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other thing that I'll show you is that in the New South Wales cops, I think I referred to it before, is that when you've done more than 10 years and you've been a good boy, you haven't got into any trouble, they give you a medal. And that's it's for diligent and ethical service. And
Oh, okay.
that's the full size medal. And they give you a little one to wear, maybe if you're going to some formal function and you wear that on your suit.
Yep.
I think you wear the big one if you got your uniform on. And what we used to wear on our uniform every day was this. That's called the ribbon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wear that. Yeah, you being a military man, you wear that on your
Yeah.
shirt or your jacket. So, and then the other thing that I got. Now I really rate that. I was given that by an assistant commissioner. It's all a big formal thing, you meet the assistant commissioner and there's cups of tea and there's a nice morning tea. And but the other thing that I got when I was leaving my first one-man station, I was at maybe a meeting of some sort. And when I was at this meeting, they already knew that I was transferring to another station. And in the hotel, the pub, the village people presented me with this, and I'll read it to you. And this,
Yeah.
I actually value this more than the formal decoration because it's very personal, and they didn't have to do it. And what it says is, it says to Peter Edward Gillette, dear sir, we the citizens of Greenthorpe and the surrounding district take the opportunity of your departure from us to express our high appreciation of the many eminent qualities you have distinguished yourself in the discharge of your duties as an officer of the New South Wales Police Force and a citizen of this village. We are sorry to lose you and know you will distinguish yourself in your next posting. And that was in 2008. So
Well,
I absolutely just love that. That's just, yeah. So
yeah, because they did that and they didn't have to do it,
no, they
and
didn't
they
have
had
to
to
do
take
it.
the time to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, someone went out of
yeah.
their way to think it up and print it up and frame it and then give it to me. I was really humbled by that. It was such a
How
beautiful thing.
wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful.
And
Yes.
no, anyway, that's much more show. That's more show and tell for the day.
Well, behind me on my wall, you can see some plaques back there,
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
those plaques were given to me when I would leave the Marine Corps to go do something else, or
yeah,
from the police department, or when I retired from the constable, they would have a plaque made, and it was always, um, when it's guys you served with, that
mm,
you had their back and they had your back, and then
yeah,
as a parting, a parting gift, so to speak, they have
mm,
something nice to say on the plaque
mm,
where you can hang
yeah,
it on the wall. I
yeah,
mean, I've been retired for longer than I was in,
yeah,
and it still means a lot to me. You see, it's still on. I put it on this
uh,
wall out here.
uh,
Uh, you can't read it from anybody looking over my shoulder off this, but for me, I can see it and
mm,
know what it says, and
mm,
it's always nice when someone recognizes you,
mm.
um, when you didn't think that you were doing anything special. You were just
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. What is
So
the one that's above your left shoulder? That's just the
this
shape
shoulder
of
right here,
Texas. What's that
the
one?
so the round one, or are you talking about the square one?
That one now. Just yeah, that one where your finger is now.
Oh,
There,
okay,
that one.
yeah. So that a I worked at a place called AIMD in the Marine Corps, but it was on a Navy base, and that was so I worked there, and I was in charge of a bunch of things. And when I left, they gave me that. I think that was 95, maybe.
Mm,
And then the one next to it, the square one,
mm,
right above my thumb, that was when I retired from the Marine Corps, and that was a squadron, my last squadron that I was in, from the VMFA 112, the Cowboys.
yeah,
That was our
yeah,
patch. Yeah, and you can see. Well, you can't see because I've got a flight jacket back there that's got on the chest. It's got a patch of that squadron, and that's where that one came from. So,
right. That
and then the
shirt you're
one with the ring.
wearing, that shirt you're wearing now.
Yes.
I think I've seen that, and I'm wondering where I've that word, maybe the Semper,
Yeah.
because the mayor of King Island is a military man. He still has a commission in the Australian Army as a major. Maybe I've seen him wearing something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the model. This is the official model of the United States Marine Corps. It's actually Semper Fidelis, but it's shortened because, Marines that can't ever get anything, we don't ever do anything in the right, so we always shorten everything up, so it's Semper Fi. You'll hear Marines, if you were in the area, and a Marine might say, "Hey, brother, I was in the Marines too," and another Marine would go, "Well, Semper Fi, always
Uh,
faithful is what it stands for."
mm, mm,
So it's just a
mm.
motto. And if you know anything about the Marine Corps in the United
I don't
States,
know.
okay, well, we're ate up with propaganda. We are so full of ourselves that,
But
hence the shirt.
yeah, but that's part of surely that is part of being in an organisation like that. When you said the word squadron just a moment
Yeah,
ago, that is a fantastic word. I mean, who
yeah,
gets to use the word squadron? I was in a
that's
squadron.
right.
That there is a door about to bang. No?
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah.
word there is a word that very few people get to use.
Yeah,
Great, yeah.
I never thought about it that way because I did it my whole adult life up until I
Yeah. Mm,
retired. So, but we were very proud. We were a real cohesive
mm,
outfit. We went all over the world with each other for
mm,
years and years and years.
mm.
We'd leave our families behind, and
Yeah,
they became our family. Um,
yeah.
and I'm in touch with probably 60, 70% of the people that I served with, and it's been over 20 years. But
Mm,
we still,
mm,
and we're spread out through the United States. But
yeah. Mm,
we'll every holiday, especially the Marine Corps birthday, which is November the 10th, we all text each other, after all these years, happy birthday, Marine. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, so it's something you miss. You miss that
Mm,
unit camaraderie,
mm,
that the tightness. That guy, every one of them would take a bullet for you.
mm,
If you
mm.
if you were at war, they would they had your back. It's just a brotherhood that
Mm.
is forged in forged under fire, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like I got friends to this day. I got people that contact me numerous times every week. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what's going on. I make a huge effort to answer that call or to answer
yeah,
that message. And because we know that this is people that I've served with. And I know that I can just trust them
yeah,
completely. But there's a negative side to that, and some people think, oh, you would overlook some things. Well, that just isn't true.
right.
That that you're absolutely being fed income, and that I know one of my very best friends. I won't say his name, but I don't want to embarrass him. But I know that if I did something wrong, he would be the first one to tell me, and
Yeah,
that's a good friend.
yeah.
Good friends
Yeah.
will tell you when you're going wrong.
Yeah, I think I don't see a downside because of the police officers that I was associated with. They wouldn't do something wrong. They wouldn't put me in that position.
Mm,
If they did something wrong, they didn't want me to find out about it. And
mm,
and likewise, if I was to do something, if I had a lax moment and I did something that was wrong, I
mm.
wouldn't want my buddies to find out about it because that puts
Mm,
them in a bad position. They're going to have to do the right thing, but they're
mm,
going to be torn because we have a relationship, So
mm.
it keeps you, to me, it keeps you solid and it keeps you doing the right thing because you
Yeah,
don't want to embarrass or
yeah,
let down
yeah.
somebody,
Yeah, it's like
right?
being part of the family, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
were
Well,
saying,
even more so.
yeah. You were saying the episode before that about wanting to make your father proud. It's a
Yeah,
similar sentiment, I think. You want to make sure
yeah. I
that
think
we
it
do
is.
everything right. I know that when that story I told a while ago about nearly killing that man, and it's interesting to me how I can be very, very logical but part of the logical thought was I'm trying to gain rapport with this man that I'm thinking I'm fractions of seconds away from killing, but at the same time, there's part of my brain that's going, Peter, make sure you do everything right,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's going to be 100 witnesses for coroner's court. Make sure you do
Oh, yeah.
everything right.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, you'd have to live with it as well.
Yeah.
And if you made a mistake, you can't undo that mistake. That's a fatal
No,
mistake.
no,
So
no.
yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Mm,
I think if you just try, there's a lot of people out there that say they do the right thing, but they
mm,
really don't. I mean, they do majority of the right thing, but they have their,
mm,
backsliding and they do other things. But
mm,
people like us, we don't think that way.
mm,
I told you I think about my dad and not wanting to tarnish his name or not,
mm,
my grandfather's name, and or to make my dad not proud of me. But
mm,
also, I might not even mention this, but I've raised my daughters in a certain way,
mm,
and tell them no, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, and
mm,
their whole life been really, really stringent with them.
mm,
If they become adults and then their dad does something that for their whole life taught them not to do. Can you imagine, you know, can you imagine the hurt it would be worse on your own family than it ever would be in the general public.
mm,
So,
mm,
um, so not only do I want to make my dad proud, I want to make my daughters proud of their dad because
mm,
I
mm,
made them live one way, and
mm,
and I you have to do the right thing for them. You know,
mm, mm.
it's their name too. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. My father was a big man. He was born in 1919, and over generations, people have generally gotten taller. Well, Dad was over 6 feet tall, which is above average height now, but even for 1919. But he was a big man. Like he used to bodybuild, and he was a state champion weightlifter. But he was fairly quiet, and he would. I was always on the lean side, but he would come up to me, say, fold your arms like that, and he would put his hand here, and I'd have to hold my leg straight, and he'd put his other hand on my, say, my lower leg above the ankle, and he would just do a military lift like this, And I don't know how big it was, but he would do the same to my mother. He was just a
Oh,
big, powerful dude. And,
yeah, yeah,
but he was never once did I see him lose his temper. Always calm. Never heard him use foul language. The most foul language I heard him say was bloody bastard. If something didn't go
yeah,
right, he had bloody bastard. And that was it. But
yeah,
and he was who he was in private was who he was in public and vice versa. He was completely like your shirt says, there was fidelity there. He was
yeah,
just who you saw in private was who you saw in public. Yeah, I love that about him. And I think
yeah. You
that's a
sound
really
like you're
important
very
thing.
proud.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway, so when you were saying before about taking a bullet for they would take a bullet for you, and I find that a really powerful concept. And even to this day, even just in the last week, I've had contact with one of my former work friends, and and that's still there. Yeah. So do you have
Yeah,
experiences or stories like that?
yeah. No, it is true. Ironically, I just saw one of a friend of mine too that not only were we police officers together, we were Marines together as
Wow,
well.
double.
Yeah, so we've been together a long time, and I
Mm,
hadn't seen him. And life gets in the way, and but we live probably a mile from each other, maybe not even that far. What is that? A couple of kilometers, maybe.
mm,
And I do my thing, he does his thing. But we saw each other at a grocery store the other day, and I probably hadn't talked to him in 5 years.
mm,
Other than we'll text each other, happy birthday or whatever, and things like that. But I hadn't spoken to him, not only voice on a phone, but not even in person.
mm,
And we ran into each other at the grocery store. Again, it's our mutual grocery store.
mm.
And we sat there in the aisle and talked like we saw each other yesterday.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
you leave there you tell each other why as you're partying, hey man, we got to get together. Yeah, let's do
mm,
that. And it just doesn't happen. With you living on an island, it's even harder.
mm. Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's a long
Yeah, but
way. Mm,
I know for a fact that when I was a police officer or when I was in the Marine Corps, if we were in the thick of things, you were injured, you didn't quit, because
mm,
at one time my unit deployed. In other words, they left this base to go somewhere else,
mm,
and I was injured or sick, or I can't remember. It's been so many years ago, but I can remember the dread, of what if something happens to one of these guys and I wasn't there.
mm,
Now no one wanted to go, but you salute and say, all right, we're going to go, and no one tries to get out of anything. They pick up their sea bag, they get on an airplane, and we go.
mm,
And
mhm,
so when I got sick or whatever it was, I was kind of happy that I wasn't going to have to go. But then
mm,
the dread of me not being there to protect my brother,
mm,
and
mm,
I never wanted to do that again. I
mm,
mean, we could go to the biggest hellhole
mm,
dump in the world,
mm.
and I wouldn't want to go. But if my boys were going, they weren't going to go without me.
It's a
You
beautiful
know,
thing, isn't it? That's a beautiful
yeah, it
thing.
is, and they felt the same way. So it's not just me.
Oh yeah, yeah. It talks about something that's very, very human. I mean, it's my belief we were created in God's image, and that I think traces back to that. There's something noble about the human being,
Yeah,
above a chimpanzee.
yeah. Well, when you think about it, though, Peter, because as I'm telling you the story, people who are watching might say, "Well, what about your family?
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
to stay home
Well,
with your family," and that's true too. I mean, but I knew my family was safe, and I knew if something happened to me, they would be taken care of.
And you doing what you're doing is actually making your family safe.
Yes, yes, and it's feeding them too. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. That's a pretty
you
good way to
know,
make them safe. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we'd leave our family, and Wade can probably testify to this. Sometimes 6 months to a year at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I don't know
You
what
know,
that's like. That's,
it was terrible. I mean,
mm,
you can be halfway around the world, and you're looking at the moon, knowing that's the same
yeah.
moon that your
Yeah.
family's going to see in a
Yeah.
few hours, and that's
Yeah.
the only connection that you have. You
When I was a
know,
little kid, I'm one of five children, and my older sister, her name is Joy, and her husband, who's now deceased, but he ended up a regimental sergeant major in the Australian Army, but he was going off to Vietnam because he was a regular, what they call in this country, a regular soldier just means you're a career soldier. And
hmm
John was going off to Vietnam, and he did. But I remember being at Sydney Airport when John was leaving, and my sister was just bawling. Like they weren't married at the time. I don't think, no, they weren't married, but I was just, and that was my memory of John going off to war. Horrible
yeah.
feeling. But he just had to go. That was his job.
Man, I don't know how the ladies, how the wives handle it. I mean, emotionally, because
Mm.
who's because we're overseas at the time. We didn't have internet or cell phones.
No.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we were radio silent for months at a
Yeah.
time. I mean, we could
Yeah.
write letters and we could get letters,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
can you imagine the not knowing,
Oh,
of
no, I can't.
what? Yeah, if I was the husband and my wife had to go somewhere for 6 months in
No.
harm's way or
Yeah.
potential harm's way, let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
Mm.
I don't know if I could handle that.
Mm.
But wives are so stinking strong. The female is emotionally superior to the male.
Mm. Mm.
They just
Yeah.
are. And they're
When I
strong
was at
women.
when I was at one of my one man stations, or both the one man stations, there's a police radio inside the house, right?
Yeah.
So you could answer the radio in the house. It was in the kitchen, and
But your
so
wife could also hear it when you were gone.
yeah. So I showed my wife the protocol of how to answer or use the radio. And one time, when I was a little bit late coming home, that's my first wife. She got on the radio, and she said my call sign was Manildra 18. I know Greenthorpe 16. Greenthorpe 16. Can you just give me an ECA back to the station? And that was the only time she ever did that, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
find out when I was going to be home.
So my first wife, I'm like you. I had this. I'm on my second, and
Yeah.
I'm done. But the first one, our radio system here at the police department, and as well as the sheriff's office, they didn't have digital communications. It was all analog, and it was all over the air. So anybody that had a scanner
Yeah.
could listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously I had a police radio that he had two, so you could use one on a Monday, and while it was charging, you'd use another one on a Tuesday. It was just
All right.
logistical thing. But
Mm.
would listen to the radio calls. My call sign was 122. I mean, how hard is that, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I'm
And
guessing it
so
was hard.
yeah, and she'd hear something, about 122 being involved, and she'd be on pins and needles. She never called the PD, but I can only imagine. And she did tell me one time that she was listening to things going on the radio, and then she got busy and was doing laundry or whatever, and she
Mm.
saw a police car pull up in the driveway, and she
Oh
thought,
no. Mm.
yeah, she thought she was getting the notification that something happened to me,
Oh.
and he was actually just turning around, you know. But I can understand
Yeah,
how
you can.
nervous that I
Mm. My
say what with
yeah, that'd be horrible for her. Yeah.
yeah.
My first wife, I mean, our that marriage ended, but then we still were very, very close and cared for each other. But sadly, Sharon passed on 3 years
Mm,
ago, or 3 years ago in November, from a horrible disease, just horrible, but for our children. But
mm,
her brother was the one that I've told the story about was murdered. Him and his partner were murdered on the job, shot dead. And Bob's widow. Bob was late home. Bob was never coming home, and she looked out the front door, and there's the police car with a commissioned officer, with all the rank on his shoulder and a
Yeah.
chaplain. They didn't have to tell her. She knew
Yeah.
that Bob was
You
dead.
know? Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah.
I went on when I was still in the Marine Corps, I went on a casualty call is what they call it. So
What's it called?
headquarters, it's called a casualty call.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's when a Marine gets killed or severely injured and they don't expect him to live. Then they won't call her, or his family if it's a wife or his mom and dad or whatever. So they called the base that's closest to where these people live. And I think this was we were in Dallas and we had to go to up by Amarillo, if I remember right. This was probably 86 or 87.
Mm,
And the kid ended up living, I think, but he got injured on the pistol range in
oh,
California.
it's true.
Yeah, and of course we didn't have any information other than headquarters is calling, our base, and we were on duty. We've talked about that before. When you're on duty, you're there 24 hours. You don't get to sleep or anything like that.
Uh,
So we get the call, and me and as friend of mine, that he's a friend of mine to this day, ended up having to go up there to, I believe it again was Amarillo, Texas, which is 6 hours away, 7 hours
mm,
away, maybe.
gee.
And we knocked on the door, and we're in, dress blue uniform with the Marine Corps. She knew, and the funny thing you mentioned though, you mentioned the chaplain, and I think they, I don't know why we didn't have a chaplain with us because I know they've done it in Vietnam, and I know they've done it in the war on terror, the global war on terror, but we didn't have one, and I can't remember all the details today, but
Mm,
I can remember this guy and he's been in 10 years longer than me, and we were talking all the way up on this trip up there to this lady's house.
what a
I
long
mean,
way.
yeah,
Mm,
we're not trained for the words to use, so we're going through these scenarios, you
mm.
know, and she was
Some of
mad at
the,
us.
I reckon one of the worst things coppers have to do is that death
Yeah.
notification, and I think the worst one I did was just horrible. Was this young girl? For some reason or other, she should have been at school, so she was only school age. She might have been 14 or 15 or 16. And we went to a house, and somehow or other, I ascertained that she was home alone. I went to the house. It was actually a unit. I went to the unit next door. Didn't know him at all. Said, mate, I'm about to go next door and give this young girl next door some really bad news. I'm going to need you to come and fill the gap to be with her whilst I organise something else, righto? Because she had to be told. The father was a shearer, out shearing sheep, hours and hours away. Like shearers are away for maybe a week at a time.
Hmm.
I had to tell this poor girl the father just dropped dead.
Wow.
Horrible, and she just went to pieces. She actually
Yeah.
collapsed. And this bloke next door, he said, "Oh, mate, I don't know if I can do this." I said, "Mate, you're going to have to do it. Man up. You've got to do it. You've got to look after her." Anyway, that was. But another one, I don't mean this is in a horrible way, but another one we did was a death notification, but we had to tell about three different houses we had to go to. And
Wow.
every house we went to, we used a formal name. And but he had a nickname. I won't say what the nickname was, but I said, "Oh, Joe Blow's dead." And then the last place we went to, it was a bit funny, really. We went into this house, and there's a number of people sitting there. And there was an old bloke. When I walked into the house, he was sitting on my left, and he was very hard at hearing. And we told everybody, "Oh, you know, this man's passed on." Oh, the same nickname. He dead. And then when I was walking out, this old bloke looked up at me. He goes, "Oh," and he said, "Oh, Joe Blow's dead," like he was telling me. I said, "Yeah, okay, mate." Anyway,
Well, yeah, yeah, we've had to do death notifications, from like I guess you hit on it. It's usually not in your jurisdiction or not close to you. You get a call from another agency that a person's had an accident or whatever, and they call
mm,
your department, and your department sends you out. We do the same thing. and it's never good. The way we handle it, and everybody I know handled it this way, is we would go to them, hey, you need to call this this sheriff's department. There's been, they got some kind of information they need to get to you, and then unfortunately because we don't get. Sometimes we didn't get all the information. We would have to go out and specifically tell them, hey, we got a message from, let's say, Houston, that they need you to call them concerning one of your loved ones.
Okay.
And we never know what the outcome is after that. We leave,
Yeah.
but
It's
I've
the
never had
reality.
to.
It's the reality of policing. It might be something god awful that you're doing, but then the reality is the next job rolls along and the next job rolls along. And, I've had people come up to me. One time I was at the police station, at Dubbo Police Station, and that's a pretty big police station, and at the end of the shift, and I'm down in the muster room trying to do all my work and finish things up, reports and whatnot, and the sergeant or someone comes down to the muster room and says, Pete, there's someone at the front counter wants to see you. You really don't want that. I just want to get out of there. And I'll go up to the counter. There's this young man standing there, and he said, "Oh, mate, I just come to apologise for what I did to you." And I'm going, "Mate, I don't know what you're talking about." I'd arrested him in a licensed premises, and he put on a fight, and I got my arm. About there, I got a pretty good scar on my arm somewhere there from. And anyway, and I'd forgotten all about it. I charged him with, assaulting police. But he went to court that day, and he was genuinely remorseful. And he was a lovely young fella, I said, mate,
Yeah, I've had that myself. I've had that myself, and I don't know if I've told you the story. If I have, people might get upset, but it was where the truck driver was doing meth in the bathroom. And
I haven't heard that. No.
Oh, okay. Well, we got a call that somebody was doing, a truck driver was doing methamphetamine. He was shooting methamphetamine into his arm at this truck stop. And this truck stop had this bathroom, but it was down this long, narrow hallway, one of those old bathrooms,
Yeah.
And I was a brand new police officer. So I was already released. I'd already gone through the FTO program and was released, but still, still wet behind my ears, And the sergeant was behind me, and he was a big guy, man. The sergeant was, yeah, and a lot younger than me, But anyway, I was the first one. It was my call, so I was the first one. And, you get the heebie-jeebies going down these long, narrow hallway.
The fatal funnel.
It's dark. Yes, it's a fatal funnel. That's exactly right. And this bathroom had one sink and one toilet in it, so this knucklehead didn't lock the door. It's lockable. So I'm not thinking anything about it. I'm thinking I'm going to get down there. That guy's going to be gone, or he's going to be done, or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't expect what happened. I opened the door, and he's standing there with a needle in his arm.
Oh, good.
And he sees me, and he wants out of there. Well, the only way to get out of there is he's got to come through me, through the big guy behind me, and then we had one more guy behind him, and he was so adamant that he was going to he wasn't trying to hurt us, but he was trying to get out of there. And we got to wrestling with this guy, and we knocked. So at this truck stop, it was also like a convenience store. It had Cokes and paper plates and beer and all kinds of stuff. Just Pop-Tarts and cereals, whatever you need while you're on the road, and you don't want to go to the grocery store.
After you've had a shot, after you've had a shot, and need something to eat now.
Yeah. If you get hungry, but we knocked down all, just wrestling with this guy. We knocked down all those shells that had all that. And I can remember I had a hold of this guy, and every time I get a hold of him, he'd slip out because there were sodas. I can vividly. So the soda was spinning around, just shooting this, and we were all drenched in it. And I'd get a hold of him, and then he'd squirm out, and he'd go right into the hands of the next police officer, and he'd squirm out. And we ended up getting him, handcuffed and settled down. Again, he wasn't trying to hurt us; he was just trying to get away. Yeah.
Did he
we didn't
actually
want
get
to.
the drug into him?
Yeah, I guess so.
It seemed that way.
Yeah.
One time, you reminded me. One time we got called to a service station, and we got called there because there was someone in Australia or New South Wales. If you want to use the toilet, you usually go to the person at the counter, and they give you the key.
Yeah.
Righto, so you get the key, you go to the toilet, use the toilet. But this bloke had been in there for quite a while, and they were concerned about him, I think. And so we got there, and so he's already got the key. But anyway, we're standing outside the stall door. He's not in there doing meth, he's in there having sex.
Oh, wow. With himself?
No, yeah, there was a girl in there.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, good clarification. Anyway,
What a nasty place to do that.
That was just a bit awkward, I could hear him going through the motions, and anyway, but turned out he was a bloke that, that I don't know if you used the expression known to police.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was known to police, but he was the thing that I can remember about it, he was just ridiculously tall. Like he must have been close to, I don't know, he might have been nudging 7 feet tall. He was like at least 6'6", Like I'm reasonably tall. He was way taller than me. Anyway, it's just an odd thing, isn't it? All the things you get called to, some bloke.
Oh yeah,
just misses in the toilet.
Well, that guy that I was telling you about, this truck driver. So I got bloody doing something. I don't know, cut somehow or another. It wasn't a big thing, but that was back when AIDS was such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And he's an intravenous drug user.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was bleeding too. So we got him handcuffed, got the ambulance out there, and took him to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And I had to be the one to go with him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And we get him down there at the hospital. They patch him up and all that. And I said, hey, can you do an AIDS test on this guy? Because, our blood may have mixed. We're all cut up and bleeding. And she goes, yeah, but I can't give you the results. And I'm like,
yeah, privacy.
Yeah, privacy.
How bloody ridiculous is that?
Privacy. And so the guy told me, he said, man, because, he's already arrested and he's calmed down. And he's like, I asked him, I said, would you, when you get the results, would you come back and tell me? Because I don't want to be around my family, drinking after them or them drinking after me until I know definitively, that you don't have AIDS. He goes, yeah, I'll come back once, when I'm done and get the results, I'll come back and tell you. Well, I had no hope whatsoever he was going to do that, Yeah. But about 3 weeks later, he's like what you were talking about.
Wow.
He's up at the police department. I get called in. This guy wants to see me. So I come in, and it's that truck driver, and he wanted to show me that he was he was clear, no AIDS. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think he lived like 200 miles away.
Wow, that's a long way.
Yeah.
That's really nice of him, yeah.
So you just never know. Not everybody is a bad person. They just make mistakes,
I think that almost everybody has some element of goodness in them. Yeah, they were not all bad. But you reminded me about the blood. One time we got into a wrestle or some sort of violent arrest, and the offender was bleeding. And anyway, so I got blood on my uniform. Now I lived 50 kilometres away. So and it was at night. There's no way in the world I was going to drive home and get another shirt. But my partner was much bigger than what I was, and he absolutely insisted, that we go back to his house, was just a few kilometres away, and gave me one of his clean shirts. The only trouble was, for the rest of the shift, it looked like Pavarotti. He had this huge shirt.
Like a balloon.
Like I was wearing a tarpaulin.
Oh, hey, you know what? That reminds me of a story.
Yeah.
So I get a call of a domestic violence call. I mean, I think that's pretty much what happens. But I go in there, and this guy's sitting the woman opens the door. She's saying, hey, my husband's being belligerent, and he's put his hands on me. He's sitting in his chair watching TV. He don't want nothing to do with the police.
Yeah.
So we say, get up. No, I ain't getting up. So we ended up grabbing him and getting him up. You know how that goes, right? You don't get a second chance. So I handcuffed him and I'm going in his pockets to see if he has any contraband, anything that's going to hurt us, and because I'm taking him to jail,
Yeah.
and I pulled this cocaine. It was a little pouch, a little plastic baggie
Yeah.
full of cocaine.
Yeah.
And so I write him up for cocaine, arrest him for that, arrest him for domestic violence. He ends up taking it to trial
Wow.
about 6 months later.
Wow.
And his lawyer, so I was called in, obviously, and his lawyer, you call him solicitor, I think, the guy who's
Yeah.
representing the
I think
victim.
they use both words here. Yeah.
Okay, so his lawyer got me on the stand, and we're all, we're trained to give testimony.
Mm.
And he asked me, he goes, "Do you know if the pants that he was wearing was his pants or not?"
Right.
I'm like, "Well, I have no, I
Yeah.
don't know."
Yeah.
I'm thinking in my mind as I'm telling this guy, I don't know. I'm trying to second guess what his angle is on this,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And anyway, the lawyer made a big to do out of this guy had put on his roommate's pants.
No.
And that's who the cocaine belonged to. And the jury bought it.
Oh no.
Yep. So
Oh.
here I am, a police officer. The rest of this guy did all this stuff,
Mm.
take him to jail, do all this stuff.
Mm.
I'm not gonna wrongfully accuse somebody of something.
Mm.
But he gets there, and that lawyer tells the jury that this officer, he didn't do his due diligence. I mean, made me look really terrible,
Mm.
because he's paid by this guy to advocate for him. And so I get it, but it still pissed me off.
Did you check
And
for fingerprints on the bag?
no, no.
They might have sorted it out.
Yeah, I mean, you think if it's in a guy's pocket that you're
Yeah.
patting out.
Yeah.
He's got custody of it,
Yeah.
regardless of what the fingerprints are.
Yeah. 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 When you
So
said about the bloke being on the lounge, when I was stationed at Dubbo, our police pick up particular skills, and apparently one of my skills was telling people off. And so there's all these experienced police, and so they were on the other team. There was two teams always working, or two trucks, I mean. They said, "Pete, we've got a job for you. You got to go down," because they decided this bloke was going to get a warning. Right? We could give warnings on the run. You're really good at telling people off. So, okay, they took me down there to this house, and this bloke's there, and I walked in. I'm ready. I'm primed. I'm going to tell this bloke off, tear strips off him. And I walk in there, and he's laying on the lounge. And I said, "Get up." He stood up, and he was about 4 foot tall.
oh,
He's only this little bloke. And I just felt sorry for him. Oh, dear me. So I only gave him about one barrel.
oh my.
I couldn't give him both barrels.
I don't remember what the call was, but it's similar to your story. So I knock on this trader house, and they had this picture window that goes from the floor all the way to the top, that you could see in and out of. But they had drapes and blinds. And I knock on the door, and I hear, "Who is it?" I said, "It's the police. Open the door." And I hear this. So he opens these blinds, and this dude is a dwarf, and he's and he's like, "I ain't opening the door." And I think what it was I didn't have what I had didn't authorize me to make entry into the house, unauthorized entry into the house. And I'm sitting here having this argument with this little guy about 3 foot tall. And then he talked me down. I couldn't do anything about it. I had to leave, put my hand in my head in my hand, and walk away in defeat.
Mate, when I was at the academy doing our initial training, there's 210 of us on the parade ground, and we had to parade morning and afternoon, and it was absolutely strict. Well, being a military man, parade grounds are, like burial or like a cemetery, and a very strict protocol. One of the blokes, and hopefully he often, you might watch these podcasts, bloke named Mick, I'm still friends with, and Mick would stand behind me on the parade ground, and there was always a bloke sometimes walked on a little bit late. And there was no height restrictions then in joining the police. He was quite short, but he was this wide, He was really, really well built. And Mick, that was standing behind me, would try and make me laugh. And he would, because you had to talk really low, because if the protocol officer heard, you'd get told off big time. Anyway, and Mick would say behind me, if I can't be tall, I'm going to be big, and try and make me laugh. Anyway, he often
You always
still
got a
do that.
friend. You always got a friend
Yeah,
to help you out.
yeah. And to this
Yeah,
day,
mate.
yeah, to this day, we still would laugh about that. Um, One of the other things I remember when I was at Dubbo is a pretty wild town, and I think it still is. But even on our training days, like we're in a lecture room, hearing lectures all day, we would still wear our guns. We would go to work, put our gun belt on, with a Glock on it. Anyway, but one day there was actually police that were working out on the street, and they called for urgent assistance. So that was fantastic. We were able to respond from the lecture room, run down the steps and jump and just find some vehicle. I think it was, and race to the scene where these coppers were there was a melee going on, and we're able to. And I remember grabbing one bloke. I was in the government building office where they go to get their unemployment benefits. That might paint the picture for you. I remember grabbing this bloke, taking him out on the street, and just draping him over the bonnet of someone's car. Yeah, so there was what we would call a deadhead or a numbskull, and it was his car, and he was whinging to me about draping this bloke over the bonnet of his car. He got told off anyway. I've got to do whatever I want to do, mate. Anyway.
It's crazy, man. The police business is the funnest thing in the world, man.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, it is. That's the
We
fun.
were at we were working off duty. When we work off duty, we still wear a uniform and we still wear, everything. It's like we're on duty, but it's a private business that's paying us by the hour.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we get paid $60 to $75 an hour. That's where police officers make their money in the United States. I mean, we get paid pretty good, but we can work 4 hours and make pretty good money.
Yeah, we could do the same.
Yeah. So security guards and all them are they can't charge what we are because we're armed police officers. But we were working at this racetrack, for cars doing drags.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, and we were just walking around, make sure everybody minded themselves. But there was a big kind of like rumble, this gang fight, out where everybody was parking and all that. So there was like three of us had to run out there, and we took care of it pretty quick. But one of the guys that was running with us, and I remember this to this day, he fell and rolled, one of the police officers.
Right.
And he's like, I've been shot. And so we take care of, we got to take care of these people that are fighting right quick, and then go back and get this guy. I don't want to mention his name. So I was like, where are you shot? We put him on a golf cart, and we're going to head him to the where the medics are. And I'm saying, where are you shot? He goes, it's in my calf. So I pulled his pants leg up. I was going to stop the bleeding. How we do. There's no hole. I said, I'll go ahead and use his name because there's a bunch of Phils. I said, Phil, is this the wrong leg? He goes, no, that's the leg, Mike. I've been shot. Oh God, I've been shot. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with your leg. That boy's muscle had tore while he was running, and I guess that felt like a gunshot.
Wow.
We all thought that Phil got shot, but it was just his muscle, his calf muscle tore. Yeah, so I mean, you just never know what you're going to handle, because when somebody tells you they've been shot and you're out there and you're in a big open area with probably 500 people, with three police officers, trying to handle everything, you're thinking I'm the next one to get shot because I've got a uniform. I mean, everybody knows who you are, but no, Phil just tore a muscle running after a bad guy.
You never
It's crazy,
down, did he?
Do what?
I bet he never lived that down.
No, we were so relieved. Oh man, God, we were so relieved.
Not a good, okay. Well, our time's up. Yeah.
Taskmaster, huh?
Yeah. So I got. So anyway, it's been thanks so much for today, and oh wow.
That's what
That is
that's what I'm gonna be
fantastic.
sending you. I'm gonna send you and Wade. It'll come to you, but give Wade a
Yeah.
couple of these too. And then this is the subdued same patch, but it's if you wear a black uniform, you
Oh, that's
you
fantastic.
subdue it. This is
Beautiful.
for a blue uniform that's more formal, I guess, and this is
Actually,
for a working uniform.
oh, I actually
But
went
I'll
looking this morning for one of my old shirts, but I don't have any anymore, so I'll have to find a patch from the New South Wales Police and send it over to you. Yeah, oh,
yeah
thanks so much.
yeah.
That's man, I can't
Don't
wait to
bur-
get that.
don't worry about it. We'll get it all worked out.
Yeah,
And
right.
but I remember that from our last podcast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all right, man.
Well, if
Well,
anyone wants to ask any questions and or things that we can talk about, let us know in the comments, and we'll get to it. Thanks very
yeah,
much, Mike, and hooroo from King Island, from the tiny little island all the way up to the United States. Thanks, mate.
you bet, brother. From Texas to King Island. Y'all be safe, and I'll see y'all on the next podcast.